There are moments in life when silence feels louder than answers, when prayers seem to rise and fall back upon us unanswered, and when the weight of waiting presses heavier than the burden we first carried to God. In such moments, the human heart begins to ask questions it never thought it would need to ask. Not questions of curiosity, but questions of survival. Has God seen this? Has He heard me? Did I pray wrongly or not enough or too late? Yet it is precisely in these moments, when the soul is most tired of hoping, that God whispers with a quiet certainty, "Hold on, I've already handled it." We are prone to imagine that God's work must always announce itself with thunder, that His answers must arrive wrapped in sudden miracles and instant relief. But more often than not, His greatest works unfold in the unseen places, in the slow turning of circumstances we do not yet understand, in the shaping of our hearts while we are watching the clock. We forget that the same God who formed galaxies without haste is not troubled by our deadlines. What feels delayed to us is not delayed to Him. What feels forgotten is often being prepared with care. There is a strange impatience woven into the modern soul. We measure value by speed and success by immediacy. When relief does not come quickly, we assume it will not come at all. Yet God does not operate by our anxious calculations. He is not rushing to meet a timetable written by fear. He is working according to wisdom, and wisdom rarely hurries. When God tells you to hold on, it is not because He is undecided. It is because the outcome is already secure, even if the process is still unfolding. Consider how often we confuse struggle with failure. We look at resistance and assume rejection. We interpret hardship as absence. But the presence of difficulty does not mean the absence of God. Often it means the opposite. Strength is not built in comfort, and faith is not refined in ease. The very season that feels like abandonment may be the place where God is closest, shaping you for something that would crush you if it arrived too soon. There is a deep comfort in realizing that God does not ask us to hold on because everything is uncertain, but because everything is already under control. He does not say, "Hold on, I hope this works out." He says, "Hold on, I've already handled it." The holding on is not for His sake, it is for ours. It keeps us anchored while the storm passes. It prevents us from walking away moments before deliverance arrives. Many people abandon hope, not because God has failed them, but because waiting has exhausted them. Waiting exposes what we trust. If we trust only outcomes, waiting feels unbearable. But if we trust God Himself, waiting becomes a place of quiet strength. The soul learns to rest not in what it can see, but in who it knows. Faith matures when it learns to sit calmly in the unanswered spaces. We often imagine that faith is proven by action alone, by bold steps and visible courage. Yet some of the deepest acts of faith are invisible. Staying when it would be easier to leave. Believing when doubt feels more reasonable. Praying again when the last prayer seemed to echo unanswered. Holding on when every emotion urges you to let go. These quiet acts do not draw applause, but they shape character, and character is something God values deeply. God's handling of your situation does not always remove the pain immediately. Sometimes His answer is not an escape, but endurance. Not because He enjoys your suffering, but because He sees what endurance will produce. There are lessons that cannot be learned in safety, virtues that cannot grow without pressure. Patience, humility, compassion, and courage are not born in ease. They are forged in places where holding on is the only option left. When God says He has already handled it, He is also saying that your worry adds nothing to the outcome. Anxiety may feel productive, but it produces nothing of value. It drains strength without solving problems. God never asked you to carry the weight of outcomes. He asked you to trust Him with them. Your responsibility is faithfulness, not control. Control belongs to God, and He has never dropped what He holds. There is also a subtle pride hidden in our anxiety. We worry because we believe at some level that everything depends on us, that if we stop striving, everything will collapse. But the truth is both humbling and freeing. The world does not rest on your shoulders. God was sustaining creation long before you arrived, and He will continue long after your fears have quieted. Trust is learning to step aside and let God be God. Holding on does not mean denying your pain. Faith is not pretending everything is fine when it is not. God is not offended by honesty, He invites it. You can bring your questions, your tears, your frustration, and your weariness to Him. Holding on simply means you refuse to let go of God even when you do not understand Him. It means choosing relationship over resolution, trust over explanation. There are seasons when God's silence feels like absence, but silence is not emptiness. Sometimes it is the quiet of careful work, the stillness of a master craftsman shaping something delicate. If God answered every prayer instantly, we would never learn to listen. If He removed every struggle immediately, we would never learn to lean. The silence invites us deeper, beyond surface faith, into trust that does not depend on constant reassurance. You may not see it now, but God is already moving pieces into place. Conversations you are not part of, opportunities you cannot yet see, protections you will never know about. Some doors are not opening because God is sparing you from what lies behind them. Some delays are not punishments but mercies. We judge outcomes by comfort, but God judges by purpose. When you feel like giving up, remember that feelings are poor guides for truth. They are real, but they are not reliable. Faith does not deny emotion. It simply refuses to let emotion have the final word. God's promises do not expire because you are tired. His faithfulness does not waver because your strength does. When you have no strength left, that is not the end of the story. It is often the place where God's strength becomes most visible. There is a difference between waiting in despair and waiting in hope. Despair stares at the clock. Hope looks to God. Despair assumes the worst. Hope trusts the best, even when evidence is lacking. Hope is not naive optimism. It is confidence in God's character. It believes that even if the outcome looks different than expected, God's goodness remains unchanged. We often want God to explain Himself, to justify the pain, to reveal the entire plan. But explanations rarely bring peace. Peace comes from presence, knowing that God is with you, not just watching you, that He is not distant or indifferent, but intimately involved. He does not stand on the shore giving instructions while you struggle in the water. He enters the struggle with you. Holding on is sometimes nothing more than getting through the next hour. Faith does not always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like breathing when you want to stop, praying when words feel empty, trusting when trust feels fragile. God does not measure your faith by its size, but by its direction. Even a small faith pointed toward Him is enough. When God says He has already handled it, He is reminding you that the story is bigger than the current chapter. You are reading a page, He has written the ending, and the ending is not chaos, not defeat, not abandonment. It is redemption, even if redemption comes in ways you did not expect. God's solutions often look different from our requests, but they are never careless. It is also worth remembering that God is not only working on your situation, He is working on you. The waiting is shaping your vision, teaching you to see beyond immediate relief. It is loosening your grip on things that cannot ultimately save you, and strengthening your reliance on the one who can. Transformation rarely happens in comfort. It happens in the quiet persistence of holding on. Many people want God's blessings without God's timing, but timing is part of the blessing. What arrives too early can harm us. What arrives too late can be wasted. God's sense of timing is not arbitrary, it is precise. When He says to hold on, it is because releasing too soon would cost you more than waiting a little longer. There is a deep irony in faith. The moment you feel most alone is often the moment you are being carried most closely. When all other supports fall away, you discover whether God is enough. And when you discover that He is, something in you changes forever. You become less dependent on circumstances and more anchored in truth. You may look at your life and see only fragments, unfinished sentences, prayers that seem cut off mid-thought. But God sees coherence where you see confusion. He sees purpose where you see pain. The command to hold on is not a dismissal of your struggle. It is an assurance that your struggle is not wasted. Even now, while you wonder if anything happening, God is faithful. Faithful in ways you will recognize later. when hindsight brings clarity that the present moment cannot. Many of the things you will one day thank God for are things you are currently asking Him to remove. Perspective often comes after deliverance, not before. So when the weight feels unbearable and the silence stretches longer than you hoped, remember that God's handling of your life is not frantic or uncertain. It is deliberate, patient, and loving. He is not improvising. He is not reacting. He is guiding. And every step, even the slow ones, are moving you towards something meaningful. Holding on is not weakness. It is courage expressed quietly. It is faith that chooses to remain when leaving would be easier. It is trust that rests not in visible proof, but in the unchanging nature of God. And as you hold on, even imperfectly, even with trembling hands, God continues to work, weaving together what you cannot yet see, arranging outcomes that will one day make sense, aligning your path with purposes that extend far beyond this moment. And in the stillness of your waiting, in the tension of unanswered prayers, in the fragile persistence of hope that refuses to die, God continues to whisper, not in panic but in assurance, not in uncertainty but in calm authority, reminding you again and again that what feels unfinished to you is already complete to Him, that what feels unresolved has already been secured, and that even now, beneath the surface of your doubts and fears, beneath the ache of waiting and the strain of endurance, He is still at work, still faithful, still present, still holding every detail together while you learn, slowly and often painfully, what it truly means to trust, to rest, to remain, and to hold on, even when the road stretches forward without clear answers, even when the night feels longer than expected, even when the heart grows weary because the story is still moving, the purpose still unfolding, and the hand that holds your life has not loosened its grip, not even for a moment, as God continues to shape, to guide, to prepare, and to move in ways that are unseen yet certain, leading you onward through this season, through this waiting, through this quiet test of faith, into what comes next, where the lessons learned in holding on will begin to reveal why the waiting mattered, why the silence was not empty, and why letting go was never the answer when all along He was already handling what you could not reach, guarding what you could not see, and preparing outcomes that required patience rather than panic. There is a mystery in how God works that unsettles the part of us that craves certainty, yet comforts the part of us that longs for meaning. He does not rush to explain Himself, because explanation alone cannot sustain a soul. Instead, He invites trust, the kind that grows slowly, quietly, and often in the dark. The dark is not evidence of failure. Seeds grow there, roots deepen there, strength forms there. The night is not an interruption of God's work. It is often the setting in which His work becomes most profound. We fear the dark because it hides what we love, but God uses it to hide what He is growing. What feels like obscurity may be protection. What feels like delay may be alignment. Holding on in the dark is not foolishness, it is faith refined. You might wonder why God allows you to feel the strain of waiting, if He has already handled it. Why not spare you the tension altogether? Yet consider this. Without waiting, you would never learn to listen. Without strain, you would never learn where your strength truly comes from. Comfort can produce complacency, but waiting produces wisdom. And wisdom, once gained, stays with you long after the situation changes. We oft pray for answers when God is offering formation. We ask for solutions when He is shaping our souls. This is not cruelty, it is kindness of a deeper sort. God is less concerned with fixing a moment than with forming a person. Moments pass, but a formed soul carries resilience into every future trial. When God tells you to hold on, He is investing in who you are becoming, not just what you are escaping. There is a quiet confidence that grows in those who have waited on God long enough to see His faithfulness revealed. They do not boast loudly. They do not rush to prove themselves. They have seen how fragile human certainty can be, and how steady God remains. Their faith is not flashy, but it is durable. It bends without breaking. It rests without resigning. It hopes without demanding. You may feel as though your prayers are repetitive, as though you are saying the same words again and again with little change. But repetition in prayer is not wasted breath. Each prayer is a thread, and God weaves them together into something stronger than you can imagine. The pattern may not be visible yet, but the weaving continues. Faithfulness in prayer is not measured by novelty, but by persistence. There is also grace in acknowledging how difficult holding on can be. God does not expect stoic endurance. He does not demand emotional perfection. He knows the limits of your strength because He designed them. When you falter, when your grip loosens, He does not withdraw. He tightens His hold. Your security does not depend on the firmness of your faith, but on the faithfulness of God. At times, holding on means resisting the temptation to rewrite the story prematurely. We rush to label seasons as wasted or broken, forgetting that a story is not judged by a single chapter. God is not finished when you feel finished. He is not silent because He is absent. He is often quiet because He is close, working patiently, deliberately, without spectacle. There is a difference between control and surrender, and it is subtle. Control says, "I will trust when I understand." Surrender says, "I will trust even when I don't." Control exhausts the soul, surrender steadies it. God's invitation to hold on is an invitation to surrender control without surrendering hope. It is learning to place the outcome in God's hands while keeping your heart open. We often imagine that if God were truly handling our situation, it would feel easier. But ease is not the measure of God's involvement. Sometimes His presence brings conviction rather than comfort, clarity rather than calm. Growth often feels uncomfortable because it requires change. God does not promise a painless path, but He does promise a purposeful one. Holding on also means resisting the voices that tell you your waiting is pointless. The world is impatient with faith. It urges quick fixes, immediate gratification, visible results. But faith has always been countercultural. It values depth over speed, truth over trend, endurance over ease. To hold on in faith is to live by a different rhythm, one set not by urgency but by trust. There is a quiet strength in learning to live with unanswered questions. Not every question needs an answer to be carried. Some questions are companions, reminding us of our dependence on God. They keep us humble, they keep us listening, and sometimes they fade not because they are answered, but because they no longer matter in the same way. You may look back one day and realize that the very season you wanted to escape was the season that saved you, that the delay you resented protected you from harm you could not see, that the waiting taught you discernment, patience, and compassion in ways success never could. Gratitude often arrives late, but when it does, it transforms memory itself. Holding on requires honesty about your limits. There will be days when faith feels strong and days when it feels threadbare. God is present in both. He does not abandon you on the weak days and reward you on the strong ones. His love is not performance-based, it is steadfast. When He says He has already handled it, He is not evaluating your effort, He is assuring your heart. There is also a communal dimension to holding on. God often sustains us through others, through words spoken at the right moment, through shared silence, through unexpected kindness. Do not despise these small mercies. They are not distractions from God's work, they are instruments of it. God's handling of your situation often includes people you did not expect and paths you would not have chosen. The temptation to quit often arrives just before something shifts. This is not coincidence. Weariness clouds perspective. It narrows vision. It whispers that nothing will change, that effort is futile, that hope is naive. But weariness is not truth. It is a condition. Rest can restore what exhaustion distorts. Holding on sometimes means resting without giving up. God's faithfulness is not fragile. It does not depend on your mood, your clarity, or your consistency. It is anchored in His character. When you cannot see His hand, you can still trust His heart. This trust is not blind optimism, It is grounded confidence born from knowing who God has shown himself to be, again and again, across time and circumstance. You may feel pressure to present your faith as confident and unshaken, but God values authenticity over appearance. He meets you where you are, not where you pretend to be. Holding on does not require you to silence your doubts, it requires you to bring them to God rather than letting them pull you away. The waiting room of faith is not empty. It is filled with quiet lessons, subtle shifts, and unseen progress. God does not waste time. Even when nothing seems to be happening, something is forming. Perspective is changing. Desires are being refined. Strength is being built. You are not standing still, even when it feels that way. There is a humility that comes from realizing how little control we truly have, and a freedom that comes with releasing the illusion that we ever had it. God's handling of your life is not threatened by your uncertainty. He is not overwhelmed by complexity. He is not surprised by obstacles. What feels complicated to you is not complicated to Him. Holding on also means trusting God's goodness when outcomes differ from expectations. Sometimes God answers prayers by redirecting paths. Sometimes He closes doors we were certain should open. These moments test whether we trust God for His gifts or for Himself. Faith that depends on specific outcomes is fragile. Faith rooted in God's character endures. As you wait, you may notice changes within yourself that you did not ask for. A deeper compassion for others, a gentler patience with weakness, a clearer sense of what truly matters. These are not accidents. They are fruits of waiting well. God is not only preparing a future for you, He is preparing you for that future. There will be moments when holding on feels like standing still while the world moves on. Others seem to progress, to achieve, to arrive, while you remain in place. Comparison can poison hope. It assumes that every journey should look the same. But God does not mass-produce stories. He crafts them individually, with care and intention. The discipline of holding on teaches discernment. It teaches you to distinguish between urgency and importance, between noise and truth. It sharpens your ability to listen, to wait, to respond rather than react. These skills serve you long after the waiting ends. They become part of who you are. You might fear that waiting will make you passive, that trusting God means doing nothing. But holding on is not passivity, it is active trust. It involves prayer, obedience, and attentiveness. It is choosing faith-led action without demanding immediate results. It is walking forward one step at a time, even when the destination remains unclear. God's handling of your situation includes timing that aligns with other stories besides your own. Your life intersects with others in ways you cannot predict. What seems delayed for you may be necessary for someone else. God's wisdom holds these intersections together with precision we cannot fathom. There is comfort in remembering that God's plans are not threatened by your mistakes. Even when you stumble, even when you choose poorly, God remains able to redeem, to redirect, to restore. Holding on includes trusting God's ability to work with imperfect material. Grace fills the gaps we leave behind. The voice telling you to hold on is not harsh or demanding. It is steady, patient, and kind. It does not shame you for struggling. It does not rush you toward resolution. It simply invites you to remain, to trust, to keep your heart open, even when answers are slow to come. You may find yourself longing not just for change, but for reassurance, for some sign that God is indeed at work. Sometimes reassurance comes through clarity, but often it comes through peace that does not depend on clarity, a quiet steadiness that settles in despite unanswered questions. This peace is not self-generated, it is given. Holding on also reshapes how you view success. Success becomes less about control and more about faithfulness, less about arrival and more about alignment. You begin to measure progress not by visible outcomes, but by internal growth. This shift frees you from constant striving and anchors you in purpose. As time passes, you may notice that your prayers change. They become less about specific outcomes and more about trust, less about urgency and more about surrender. This is not a sign of diminished faith, but of matured faith, It refal. CTS a deeper understanding of who God is and how He works. God's assurance that He has already handled it does not mean the path will suddenly become smooth. It means the destination is secure. It means that no detour, delay, or difficulty will ultimately derail His purposes. It means that even the setbacks are being woven into something meaningful. When you reach the limits of your understanding, remember that God operates beyond them. His perspective is not bound by time or circumstance. He sees the whole where you see fragments. Trusting Him means accepting that your view is partial while His is complete. There is a quiet bravery in continuing to hope. Hope risks disappointment. It opens the heart to vulnerability. Yet without hope, the soul shrinks. God's invitation to hold on is an invitation to keep hoping, not because hope guarantees specific outcomes, but because it keeps you connected to Him. You are not forgotten in the waiting. You are not overlooked. You are not on hold while God attends to more important matters. Your life matters deeply to Him. His attention is not divided. His care is not rationed. He is fully present, fully engaged, fully faithful. As you continue to hold on, you may begin to sense a subtle shift, not necessarily in circumstances, but in perspective. A growing ability to trust without constant reassurance, a steadiness that surprises you. These are signs of God's work within you, even before the external situation changes. The invitation to hold on is ultimately an invitation to relationship. To know God not only as a problem solver, but as a companion, not only as a provider, but as a presence. This deeper knowing transforms faith from a transaction into a journey. And so you remain, not because everything makes sense, but because God does. Not because the path is clear, but because His character is. Not because the waiting is easy, but because letting go would mean surrendering the very hope that sustains you. In this remaining, this quiet persistence, this choice to trust beyond understanding, God continues to work with steady hands and patient purpose, guiding the story forward, even when you cannot see the next page, shaping outcomes that will one day reveal why holding on mattered, why the waiting was not wasted, and why the assurance whispered to your heart was never an empty promise. As the unfolding continues, moment by moment, step by step, with God still present, still faithful, still at work, and still inviting you to trust Him just a little longer, to stay rooted, to keep believing, to remain open to what He is doing now and what He is preparing to do next. Even as the journey carries on, unfinished yet purposeful, unresolved yet held, moving forward under His care, where the next turn awaits and the story continues to unfold beyond what you can presently see, beyond what you can yet understand, and into what He is steadily bringing to life. So let this be the place where your heart finally exhales, not because every question has been answered, but because you have chosen to trust the one who holds the answers. Let this be the moment you stop measuring God's faithfulness by speed and start recognizing it by depth. You have not been abandoned in the waiting, nor overlooked in the silence, nor weakened by the struggle. Every tear has been seen, every prayer heard, every step counted. Holding on has not delayed your destiny, it has prepared you for it. What God has handled cannot be undone by fear, and what He has promised cannot be overturned by time. Even now, as you stand between what was and what will be, your life rests securely in His hands. And when the moment comes for the story to turn, you will see that the waiting did not break you, the silence did not deceive you, and the command to hold on was never a test meant to exhaust you, but an invitation to discover a faith strong enough to carry you forward into all that God has been faithfully preparing all along.